If you live in a 4-season climate and you're looking for a colorful succulent that will do well outdoors year-round, this is the succulent for you. Let me introduce you to Sedum spurium Tricolor. You can see this cute little succulent is really hot pink around the edges, and then it has kind of a white right around the pink and green in the center. And this succulent is not only cold hardy, but it can tolerate temperatures down to -30 degrees Fahrenheit or zone 4, which means that it will grow outdoors almost anywhere in the United States. So this is a really, really great option if you want some succulents in the ground and you have snow and ice and lots of freezing weather all throughout the winter. This is one that I came to love and really appreciate when I was living in Utah because it is a survivor. So it's cute and little here in this pot, and you can see I've also paired it here with some tender succulents just to add some color and texture, but it's one that is extremely drought tolerant and does really well in the ground. And once it's planted and given enough water, it will spread drastically. So we had this one in a little area underneath a bird bath, and by the end of the summer, so we'd planted it in spring, by the end of the summer, it had taken over at least a 3-foot area, and we had to cut it way back because we didn't actually want it to spread that far. So this is a really good one if you want a ground cover that's just gonna look great basically all year round. Now, in the winter, it will go dormant and it will lose quite a few, if not all of its leaves. So you won't see a lot of color throughout the winter, but come early spring, the leaves will come back and the pink along the edges gets to be this really bright fluorescent color. The cold just brings out the pink and it makes it look extra amazing. So you'll want to make sure that you do give it plenty of water throughout the spring and summer. It is drought tolerant, so you don't have to give it water. Once it's really well rooted, it can survive long periods without water. But if you want it to grow and spread more quickly, make sure you're using that soak and dry method, soaking the soil completely and letting it dry out completely before watering, and it will grow quite quickly. So this is one that if you don't want to let it get really wide and spread out, you will want to put it in a container. And it also does really well there. As it gets a little bit bigger, it does kind of trail over the edge. The plant itself won't generally get very tall, maybe 4 or 5 inches, 6 if it's a little bit stretched out, which brings me to how much sunlight it needs. This is definitely a full sun succulent. It's not one that you're going to want to grow indoors because it is a fast grower and it needs full sun. So it will stretch out if it gets shade. Even shade in the afternoon sometimes can cause it to stretch out and will also cause it to lose its hot pink color and that variegation that you see. So make sure you have it somewhere that it's acclimated to the sunlight before it gets super hot, but it will do nicely throughout the summer, even in fairly hot temperatures. Although I don't think I would give it a try here in Phoenix. It's probably a little too hot. It's also one that's great for if you have deer or rabbit problems. So it can be slightly toxic to some animals, so you want to be careful around it with your pets and probably don't have your kids eat it. But it's awesome if you're trying to keep deer and rabbits out of your garden. They tend to leave it alone. This succulent is such a great one for those of us who've lived in cold hardy areas and want something that can survive that winter of freezing weather. And it's cute and beautiful. And another thing that's awesome about it is it propagates so easily. So as I mentioned, it's a fast grower, so it's going to put off a lot of offshoots all on its own. But if you do want to move it to another area or help it grow faster, once it gets a little bit bigger, you can cut off the tops, let them dry for a day, plant them up in some soil, and give them water regularly, and they will root within just a couple weeks and start spreading and growing more on their own. Or you can also just divide the plant as well. So if you have a good sized plant, you can just uproot it and kind of pull a piece off and plant that somewhere else and take the roots with you. So that way it will acclimate to the new area better and start growing faster. I love this succulent so much. Again, it's one of my favorites when I was living in Utah and needed something to survive the cold winters. I'd love to know if you're growing your succulents in an area that gets 4 seasons with lots of rain or snow or ice in the winter. And if this is one that you're growing in your garden, feel free to share in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and share it with all of your succulent loving friends, and I will see you next time.